Alrighty, dude, it's done.
Amazing. Another episode in the bag. That was such a good interview.
Yeah,
Cosmin is just such a smart dude, such an amazing person to talk to.
My alarm just went off.
Oh.
Sorry. Yeah, man. I think that was one of the best episodes we've ever recorded, to be honest. That was pretty sick.
Yeah, that was amazing. I mean, there are so many hackers that we could have talked to at this event, and we had picked just ahead of time, like let's talk to Cosmin, and then we ended up winning the belt. So
we nailed it. Yeah, he pulled off the belt, and it was actually an amazing performance as well. So I don't know that we get to talk too much about it on the pod episode, but just multi-tenant, multi-target live hacking events is just a total skill of itself, and Cosmin's the best at it. So.
Yep, it's such a beast. You have to be so skilled and so flexible in your skill set to be able to pull it off. It's just amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, I mean, I guess we don't have too much to say before they get into the episode, but if you guys would check out criticalthinkingpodcast.io, we have the newsletter over there. Drop your email, and let me grab Cosmin's Twitter really quickly. I want to say it's Inhibitor181 on Twitter.
I believe it is. Yeah, ctbb.show for our newsletter and podcast and everything. You can find it all there.
And then Inhibitor181 on Twitter is Cosmin, legendary hacker. Definitely give him a follow. And enjoy the episode.
Yeah. We've talked a lot about like going deep, right? And like how if you pick any kind of target.
Excuse me, Joel. Getting intimate with the application.
Right. So like as you get more and more.
I just realized how into end up going deep when you put it with getting. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, we're going deep and getting into it.
Yeah, it's going deep and getting into it, man. Okay, lovely. Dude, here we are. Welcome to the pod.
Thank you.
Yeah. I just want to say before we get started on this, we contacted Cosmin before the event, and we said, "Hey, we're gonna record a session. You want to join us?" And he agreed. And then he proceeded to win the MVH for the live hacking event. So
congratulations.
There you go.
Thank you.
Very good, man. Congratulations.
Yeah. It was the most insane timing because we had planned like days in advance that we were gonna put you on the pod, and then. We were just like, we watched you win, and then we said to each other, I guess we picked a good guess.
Yeah. Place the right bets, man. So this is your second MVH, right?
Yeah, second.
Hey,
amazing.
Two MVH squad. It is now me, you, Franz, and Joe Hash.
Yeah.
But as we discussed yesterday, Cosmin has a little bit of a unique feature for his two MVHs. You have two MVHs on live hacking events with two targets.
Yes.
That's tricky, man.
Yeah.
How does that work? Like, I feel like you have to split your time between the two targets because in order to get selected for MVH in a two target event, you have to find great bugs on both targets, right?
Yeah, usually it's like that. Like, doesn't mean that you have to like look at all the scopes of each program, but you have to pick a part of the scope for each program. You know, and go deep, try to find something. Works out or not.
So we won't say who it is or what it is, but there is a thing that you specialize in that you are much better at than everybody else. And at the event that we just did here in London, there were two targets, and somehow you managed to find your specialty on both
targets,
which is impressive. You did a show and tell, and in the first show and tell, you were like, so I was clicking through, and I noticed this checkbox, and there's like two options, and one just says name of the thing that you're specializing in, and some other thing, and I was like, of course.
Dude, that's really sick, and I think the advice that you gave right there, I mean, that's definitely applicable for winning multiple target live hacking events, getting MVH for that. But I think that's really applicable to most live hacking events as well. It's like a lot of the time you get these large companies that say, just like hack us in general, right? And everyone's like, holy crap, I gotta like run around and like try all these different pieces of scope, see which one's vulnerable, and then like, but no, really, I think my experience, it's been best to just pick one part of the scope, stick to it, and just if you pick the wrong thing, like it's fine because at the end of the day, you're going to be less scattered than anyone else trying to run around. Is that kind of what you do?
Yeah, for sure. Just pick something that you like and just go with it. You can win, you can lose, you have no idea. It could be like super hardened or a pretty shallow scope, like apparently large scope but shallow, so you don't have any idea. But I don't think, like for me personally, it's not a good idea like to focus on the whole scope.
Yeah.
Because you don't have time to go deep and you have a big chance of a dupe. Like for this event, I had just one dupe.
One dupe.
Wow.
Yeah, so...
Dang, that's pretty sick, man.
Very, very awesome. Yeah, so it's really interesting because I was thinking like, we've talked a lot about like going deep, right? And like how if you pick any kind of target...
Excuse me, Joel. Getting intimate with the application.
Yes, right. So like, as you get more and more...
I just realized how end up going deep was this when you put it with getting... I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, we're going deep and getting into it.
Yeah, it's going deep and getting into it, man. Okay, lovely.
Yeah. But like, you can kind of apply that to any type of program. Like if you just like focus in and you learn intimately like how stuff is working, like what are the different pieces, what are the different aspects of this application, how do they communicate together, you can build out that solid understanding and find the really, really deep bugs. But you've managed to do this with a technology that is so widely used that it's like, it's almost program and target agnostic, right? So you can just be like, this target uses technology. Yeah. I know technology.
Yeah.
Let's go, right?
Yeah.
Right? It's almost like learning like SQL injection. It's almost like a generic kind of knowledge at this point because it's so widely used and you're so familiar with it. Like, I would reckon you're probably more knowledgeable than employees.
I mean,
I don't know.
I'm sure they've tried. I mean, well, okay, we won't go down that path. But I'd imagine you've gotten some job, offers from X company that we're talking about. But yeah, no, and I think, but going back to the live hacking event strategy, I think when you do pick a specific like part of the application, it's really easy to think like, oh man, like I've picked the wrong part of the application. I mean, I had that same mentality during this event, like, oh 100%. Shoot, like I definitely, especially when you see the report counts go up for other people and you've maybe just got like a couple of highs or something like that. It's really hard to think about that. So how do you deal with the mental piece of it, and do you struggle at all with like, oh man, imposter syndrome, and I'm not finding the vulns in the right part of the application?
Yeah. So for sure, this happens.
Yeah.
But I usually persist.
Yeah.
Like I
just push through it.
Yeah, just push through it, try to go through it, and it usually actually pays off.
Absolutely, I totally agree.
Yeah, because there's like. Sometimes it's really hard to set up all the tools, the programs.
Oh my gosh!
And it's a pain. And after you do it, it's like a new venue is open for you to find like various stuff, and it can really change really fast. It can go really down, but then it's a huge up.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Go ahead and mute it before it gets too beepy. Sam is gonna be blowing up your DMs during the middle of this. Yeah, no, that makes sense, man. And I think that's a big part of bug bounty. I think that's underestimated is that sort of mental toughness that's required to kind of push through. Sure. And you see this, and I'm sure you all get the DMs as well. But I get a bunch of DMs every week from people. Do you have your DMs open on Twitter or no?
No, I have them open.
Yeah. So like how you just get so many DMs from people being like, how do I find these bugs? And I'm like, well, you sit down and then you try to hack it and then you fail and then you try to hack it and then you fail and then you try to hack it and then you fail and you do that like 20 times until you actually find a bug. Right?
And after anywhere from 3 to 30 days, it'll click.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I actually wanted to like, since you've been hacking on the same type of technology for like so long, I have a couple questions. One, is there stuff that like still surprises you, like new stuff that you learn as you're hacking that you didn't know before, or is it pretty much like very predictable at this point?
Yeah.
So it depends. Like some parts are really predictable. Like you know what's going on. You can imagine what they use, how they use. You know it should not be vulnerable. So you can just like look a bit, try to understand it like on the big picture. But also new parts are added. Like you have maybe like a new API, you have something new exposed.
I'm sure that's exciting.
Yeah, and like it adds to the pieces of the puzzle for the whole image. So I think it's a little bit of both. Sometimes it's tedious, sometimes it's exciting, but you can't have everything.
Do you have to stretch yourself to look for new innovative vulns in that, rather than just going back to your bread and butter, your default for this target, or is that something that comes pretty naturally?
So I think I do it consciously. So sometimes I go back to my bread and butter. Sometimes I try to go deep in a very specific piece of that and do some research. Sometimes I spend like weeks just trying to understand something, trying to go deeper and learn it, and then I can apply it to like a really big scope. So you have to I personally consciously choose what to do, because I also try to imagine how would that be applicable to the big picture. So
do you intentionally have because once you've been working on one target for so long, I feel like in the beginning when you're introduced to a target, you're just trying to get in the zone, you're trying to get the feel for the application, the lay of the land. But then once you've been on a target for so long, do you have to have planning meetings with yourself and be like, all right, in 1 week I'm gonna check in and be like, all right, do I need to pivot, or do I need to stay, or set goals, or is it mostly just sort of on the fly, okay, I'm kind of spinning my wheels here, I'm not getting anywhere, maybe I should pivot? How does that work for you?
Yeah, so for sure I don't do any planning.
I'm not a psychopath, so
so my notes are in text files. So
are they really?
Yeah, it's nothing special.
That's another big topic we've talked about is notes, but we'll come back to that.
Yes.
Yeah. So definitely, I think it's how I feel on the mental level. If I try to do something doesn't work, I just try to change it and do the other thing.
Yeah.
So.
But then, okay, and this is another common question that I get all the time. Where do you draw the line for that? How do you know? Do you have any methodology, or is it just gut to when to draw the line? And I was trying to quantify it the other day, because we get this question a lot. Where do you decide, okay, this isn't work, I need to move on, versus persisting? And I think for me, it's probably 5 or 6 mental iterations of I actually can't find anything else here, or I feel like I've hit a wall, and then I try to push through maybe 5 times before I thought, okay, actually I need to move on.
Well, and I think that point you made, mental iterations is really important, right? It's not like attempts, right? Because I was talking with some other hackers at this event, specifically about race conditions.
Yeah.
And
oh my gosh.
And there was one race condition that somebody found where they were it was 1 in 25 that it hit.
Okay, but that guy's kind of nuts.
Yes, but
he's kind of crazy.
He is a little bit crazy. So maybe that's what you need, a little bit of crazy.
Yeah, there's just, I think with some bugs, there's just you have a gut instinct and you can't explain why. Yeah. But you can just feel it that it works, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I mean, what do you think for you? Mental iterations wise, or how do you tell when to give up on a certain path or continue down?
I think it's a gut thing also. I don't think I do that many iterations, but I usually come back to the same logic.
Really?
Fresh mindset and do some more iterations.
Oh.
Yeah, so actually, in one of the bugs I presented, I did some iterations. It did not work. Then I went out.
The second one or the first one for us? Because this fricker had had MVH and over two show and tells, and I'm just on both nights, which I think probably what won him the MVH.
Yeah,
kind of crazy.
And so basically, I tried to do something. It did not work. Then I went outside to go walk without thinking.
No, I'm sorry. Was it show and tell 1 or 2? 1. Okay, got it.
I figured.
Yeah. I thought so too.
Ding.
Yeah.
Okay, I will try that, and it worked. I was actively thinking about it. So.
Wait. Okay. So
walk me through your thought process. Do you try to approach it as an employee, or how are you thinking about it when you're churning in your head about those iterations and what things if it's not working, what you want to try next? Are you trying to think how is this written, or is it more what things have I seen before that it might be vulnerable to, or how are you thinking about that?
Yeah, so this particular case you're talking to, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so I pretty much knew what was going on in the backend, so it was pretty clear in
Mhm.
my head exactly what was going on, because I could confirm it to like from various tests.
Right.
You have seen like the short version of that.
I
Right.
have, yeah.
And I just first I thought, well, what can I do there? So I just went a bit to the documentation.
Yeah.
I left, and then
Read the
Docs,
docs.
read the
documentation.
freaking
Read
docs.
the docs.
Yeah, and it just hit me like, I don't know, subconsciously.
Yeah. It's a couple comments on this. One, you said you went outside and you did some work, right? That is big.
It's
That is really big. Like, you can definitely, that is definitely something that gets the juices flowing and gets creativity rolling.
I don't know about you, but like the best place for me to think is on the toilet.
Oh. Shower, toilet,
Yes.
hot tub.
Shower thoughts, toilet
Shower
thoughts.
goes so good, yeah.
Shower's
Shower
good,
is
right?
Yes.
Yeah. Like, I tell you, man, you guys got to invest in the hot tub. Like,
Yeah.
I always, whenever I seriously mean it. It is an investment, man. I have made money off of that.
It's like
hot
an
tub.
elevated shower.
Because you get in the hot tub and you just start like levitating, like, and then you just like ascend to higher levels of bug bounty, I think. No, but that's really good. And I think when it comes to gut related stuff, right, we try to quantify it, just to be clear for all of you that are listening, being like, don't tell me it's gut.
Yeah.
Like, no,
Yeah,
like,
but this also comes with experience for sure.
Right.
that's exactly what I was going to say, right? You have to put in the reps to
Yeah.
get the gut.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. It's like that combination of you have to be like consuming knowledge and stuff, because if you just learn, like, imagine you're in school, right? You learn everything up to like the 12th grade, and then you never learn anything again. You're never going to like go beyond that, right? Because you have to keep consuming and learning new things if you want to progress. And so
Right.
that applies to like bug bounty in the same way, where like
Yeah.
if there's a technology or anything that you're hacking, like if you just stop, like that's as limited as you're going to be. If you don't learn new techniques, if you don't learn about how technologies work, then that's it. That's where you're going to end. And like that might be good for you, but like this is how you get 2 MVHs.
Yeah, exactly. And on one hand, I think the gut answer might be annoying for most people, but I feel like that's how most people do. Most successful hackers do respond. It's like, I just somehow felt it, that it was there, you know.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I feel like that should be reassuring as well, because at the end of the day, there's no like crazy methodology you've got to train yourself to stick to. It's just you've got to just do it a lot.
Right.
So, right? I mean, do you agree?
Yeah, for sure. Like,
Yeah.
if I think in this moment with the current knowledge I have, I missed
Yeah.
dozens of bugs in the beginning.
Oh,
because
yeah,
I
I'm
didn't
sure.
have
Yeah.
like that
Yeah.
gut experience and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
was like,
Oh, absolutely.
So you
Learning.
mentioned that you use text files for notes. I recently started using Notion actually.
Oh my gosh.
For notes, just because like you can have subpages and stuff.
We've talked about how Joel is a freak about organization.
Yes.
Like, okay.
Yes. And so
continue.
recently this felt like a great system for me, because
Mhm.
I can have like one large thing that's like HackerOne or whatever,
Mhm.
and then underneath that I can create one for like whatever program I'm hacking on, and then I can just do bullets and unstructured stuff, and I can just toss like brain dumps in there, little snippets and stuff.
Right.
So is it literally just like TXT files for you? Okay.
yeah, basically. No, so when you say TXT files, you make it sound elevated. So it's a text file.
There's no extension.
No, with like different topics in the same file.
Oh, it says files. It's not files. It's file.
I do like to imagine it's just like a 2,500 line, like.
No. So basically,
He opens Notepad and does Control F.
yeah. So look, okay. So jokes aside, I have like 7 text files.
Oh, okay.
Well, in
One
that
is
case.
called literally notes. The other one is tricks. The other one is mobile.
Nice.
And the other 2 have my program name in it.
Yeah.
1 and 2, and that's where I have a problem.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I don't know in which file.
He doesn't even like.
And I have to grab it.
So,
Oh
in
my
case
gosh.
you're wondering, for all really high-tech, organized people, it's about
Yeah,
7 text files away.
Yeah, yeah, man. I mean, it just makes me feel better about, like, you know, when you hear stuff like this, or you hear Eric talk about, like, I think he's been pretty public about this, but like he uses VBA,
Yeah.
you know,
Eric being today's
new,
Yeah.
just, you know, the whole, he's one of the most, you know, amazing automation hackers out there, but his system, and he'll acknowledge it, is just totally like taped together with like, you know, SGP and like, And then Cosmin, the legend of a one program master takes notes in like one file called notes and one file called tricks.
If you want to hear something really funny, you should see how I name my book projects.
Oh no.
If they don't have a name, it's like what? Yeah. I can't create new projects because it's the same name. I have to move my hand to the right.
I can't do ASDF anymore.
Oh my gosh, dude, that's psychopathic behavior right there. That is definitely.
If I have something really interesting and I have to start a new project, like for this event, I started like five projects, but even without targets, I literally named the name. Under project is interesting, so I know in the drop down list Oh my gosh. And when I open it, it goes to the top, so I have to reopen the other one to go to
my gosh, Cosmin, what is wrong with you, man? Okay, so I definitely don't do that with the burp files. Like, I intentionally name all my burp files so I know where my requests are, Cosmin, but like, I definitely do that same thing when I'm like creating multiple objects in a an actual software that I'm trying to hack. Like I'll name like for example, there's like various documents in one of the targets we were working on, and every time it's like ASDF, then it like has the same one, and then I'll forget which like one I'm trying to attack in a specific scenario, so then I'll just rename one of them this one, and then I'll do that like 3 times, so there's like 4 named this one, and then it's like no, really this one, like.
I used to do that with all my payloads too, where I would just be like test 2, test 3, test 4, and then eventually I was like, I need to like start naming these like real names, because I'll come back to a program after like a year and I'll see all my old files and I'm like, I have no idea what these are. Yeah. Like I was going back to a program yesterday and I had one file called "This shit is really interesting." .burp. I was like,
oh my gosh.
What is that? I don't even know.
Great job, self. You clickbaited me. All right, I'll check it out. Nah, it's funny though, because, and I was working with Sean, ESSY, WHY, during this event a little bit. And he just names everything, fuck it. Like, he like literally, and I'm just like, Sean, are you gonna like, put that in your POC? And he's like, fuck it. Like, I'm just like, okay, all right. Like, that seems a little bit off, but hey, if it works for you, it works. So.
Oh my gosh, that's so amazing.
Yeah. That does not mean it's the good way.
Right. Yeah.
Yes, but that's what works, right? For you at least.
Yeah. Just to be, I mean, that's a great point though, because like, even though we're all, towards the top echelon, for bug bounty stuff, it doesn't mean that there's not a lot of improvements that can be made. So, there's definitely someone up here in the top echelon as well that maybe misses some of our gut related stuff, but also is like organized as frick. Like, I'll shut it out. Mayonnaise, right? Yeah. I've talked to this guy. He's another guy that's just a legend with one program.
The yearly #1 in the U.S.
Yeah.
Top hacker on HackerOne.
Yeah. Don't rub it in, Joel. I'm coming for him.
You're in third, right? Second or third?
Third, yeah. But he's extremely organized, and he has a whole system for organizing data, and he never lets anything fall through the cracks, and that's just his thing, and it really helps him. And so, it takes all types, I think. And that's one of the great value add props for Bug Bounty, is that all different eyes are needed to secure an attack surface. Yeah. And you need some of the, sort of chaotic, more disorganized eyes. You need the hyper-focused eyes. Yeah. You need the absolute lunatics that only do Unicode normalization bugs. Andre.
He has a whole table for it, by the way.
Yeah, like, you need and just all people that only do cosmic bugs, and so, it definitely takes all types.
Yeah. So when you're like, as you continue to hack on your main target, do you have any type of like monitoring or automation? Like, how do you know when they come out with new features? Do you just kind of have your finger on the pulse all the time, or how do you stay up to date and make sure that you're not falling behind with the new features and stuff that they're adding?
So I don't have any like monitoring tooling. The tools I have, just like basic recon, and it can do deltas. So like I know what's new, but I have to run it like manually. I have like also a big custom automation tool, but It doesn't help me figure out what's new and what's old. But I'm basically subscribed to the newsletters on different places. I follow them on Twitter a lot. Actually, that actually got me like 3 or 4 bugs.
Wow.
Just like seeing some tweets. Like, whoa, we got this, we got that, we got that.
So that's almost like some OS int level stuff, like you're watching, you're subscribing to their changelog, their newsletter, their Twitter feed, and then when you see features come up, you have that product level expertise to know, oh wait, that actually sounds really interesting, and then you dive into that.
Yeah, and they also have like big releases with the documentation when it's a release. So I look through those. I'm a little behind now.
Yeah,
actually, but
well, yeah, you said lately you don't actually have a ton of, or at least for this event, the event that you won, you didn't actually have a bunch of time to hack, right?
Yeah, I mean, I had like 3 or 4 full days, and then
machine.
What the frick?
I already had planned a vacation with the family, so I went there. But I also did like let's say like 5 hours
in the evenings.
Yeah, in the evening to the night, like 4 to 5 hours. Yeah.
And you told me before this pod that you only really sleep like 5 or 6 hours a night. Is that right?
Yeah, ever since the baby, I think like around 6 hours.
6 hours does it for you?
Yeah, 6 hours definitely does it.
Do you? Okay, so there's a clarification there though. Like, do you wake up after 6 hours and feel rested, or do you wake up after 6 hours and be like, okay, I could do my life?
Yeah, well,
he's like, what is rested? I have a baby.
Basically, yeah, exactly. It depends on the baby. But like. I went to sleep back at 1 and woke up alone at 6 and I felt rested. Like,
oh wow, okay.
Like my alarm was like at 7, so I woke up at 6. And I was like, oh,
I mean, do you feel like you need a full? Am I the only one that needs like actually 8 hours of sleep?
It's really weird actually. Like this trip, I've been getting like way less sleep than I normally do, and I've been feeling more alert than I normally do. And I'm not sure if it's just because of like jet lag or what, but yeah, I do wonder.
Says that I woke him up like 30 minutes before we recorded this podcast by knocking on his door and calling him like 6 times.
Yes, I was having a nice dream, and then I just hear
Joel,
and I was like,
get up.
And then I was like, oh shit, what time is it?
Justin?
Missed call from Justin.
No. No, yeah, I think yeah, I don't know. For me, I have to have at least 7 hours of sleep. If it's 6, like I can do that for a couple days, but after that it starts, sort of compounding. Yeah. And my brain definitely doesn't work quite as well. Yeah. And I have to give it to props to all the European hackers because, like, yeah, you guys come to the US all the freaking time and jet lag, and it's pretty bad.
Yeah, we wake up at like 2 and what? I slept 4 hours. It's 2 and not sleeping. It sucks.
Yeah,
it's really bad.
Yeah. Do you ever hack? Like, do you ever have to like wake up in the middle of the night to take care of the baby, and you just like get an idea and go hack something? Or no?
I will regret it. And actually,
spoken like 2 people that don't have a baby, right?
Yeah.
This hacking in the evening on this vacation was like a super exception for me because I'm not almost never hack in the evening.
Yeah. So you're full-time as well, right? Yeah. So we're 2 full-time hunters here. And I think for me, one of the things that I've noticed, and maybe you can comment on this as well, is that I struggle with finding a sense of normal in the midst of the live hacking events, right? Because like I feel like I sort of live my life from live hacking event to live hacking event. Like so this live hacking event's over. I'm going to take a couple, a week or 2 to like chill. And then either I'm prepping for the next live hacking event, and that's another intense period of like, I don't know, maybe 10-hour days, sometimes more, but sometimes not. And in the meantime, like I've got enough bandwidth to like do a couple things on the side. But like most of the time, and my normal gets disrupted every month or 2 because I'm doing this big travel. And before that big travel, I'm intensely focused on a target. So do you feel that as well? Do you feel like you have a sense of normalcy in your life?
It's hard. Mm-hmm. It's hard. I mean, like, exactly like you said. I also usually take time off for like a week or something, whatever. Mm-hmm. Just also spend more time with the baby because I miss him, dog, wife, all of those. And then basically you have to prep for the next event, but in between I have to do some other stuff, get that done, then comes the event, focus, that gets in the way of maybe other stuff, and just fly and then go back, and it's pretty hard. I try to just have, if I'm in between, just have some normal hacking hours in the morning and until like 3:30 or something, actually, or 3 with a big like lunch meeting break.
Yeah. Okay. I was just checking to see if they can hear you. Yeah. So you said, normally you're doing from you got the live hacking events, but in your normal thing you're hacking in the morning, and then you're cutting out at around 3 or 3:30.
Yeah, and in between lunch break. Or something.
Yeah. No, it's nice, man. I love being a full-time bug bounty hunter because at the end of the day you can set your own schedule pretty freely, and if you do want to go and take a vacation, or get a long lunch with your wife or something like that. I don't know. Does your wife work from home, or does she go into an office, or what?
Oh, she's a medic, so she goes in the hospital.
Oh, lovely. Goes to the hospital. Wow, that's a lot then.
No, she's still on the what do you call it? Paternity leave or something.
Leave. Maternity leave.
Maternity leave.
Yeah. You're paternity leave. She's on maternity. Oh, that's good. Okay. So you got, man, but your kid's like a year and a half.
Yeah.
Germany's.
What the heck, dude? Germany is nuts.
Meanwhile, in the US, they give you like 4 weeks.
Yeah. The US is like, I'll give you 3 days.
Yeah.
I'm gonna need a doctor's note for more than 3 days. Like,
it's a bit different.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. Wow, that is really awesome though. But I guess, on the flip side of that, you're paying a lot of taxes on all these bounties, huh?
Yeah, for sure. It's like you can basically scratch off like 45% easily.
Ouch. Oof, dude. Oof. Ouch. That hurts. That hurts.
Yeah,
for sure. But yeah, no, it's good to have that work-life balance, and that and I think that is a struggle for all full-time. Actually, you've done full-time for longer than me now.
4 years.
4 years, dude. Nice. I'm at just over 3 now, 3.5.
Yeah.
And so
I don't actually remember like 100%.
Yeah.
But I think that sounds about right.
But around 4 years.
Yeah.
Wow, that's impressive.
So when you first started hacking, what drew you to your specialty? Like what drew you towards like hacking on that? Was that something that you had already used at work, or you were familiar with, or something, or like what like drew you to focus on that?
It was pure luck.
Okay.
It was like,
telling it straight here on Critical Thinking, like.
Yeah. I mean, like I got the invite pretty soon. It is a private program, so I got invited there. My knowledge was like really low, but I found some stuff, so it kind of went like ups, downs, but the trend was like going up.
Mm-hmm. That's really interesting, because I feel like with a new program, sometimes you'll get that trend, and then it'll kind of drop back down a little bit too. So if you see a very consistent like upward trend, that might be a good time to say like, okay, well, this might be my program.
Yeah, for sure. And I didn't like do that huge planning. In my mind, because I knew we could do it for years. Right. But also treated me very well. So I just like stick there, and then when I realized its full potential, I went deep.
I don't know if you can comment on this, but like, what is the? I feel like this program that you hack on has a longer turnaround time than some of the other programs. How do you deal with that? And
So I think, if you do full-time bug bounty, I think it's super important to already be stable, like from a financial point of view. Like you should not do it if you're like stressed out. Bug bounty with stress, it's a no-go.
It's terrible.
Yeah, it's terrible. Yeah. So basically, I just submit a bug, and then I forget about it. Mm-hmm. It's just like that. It can be paid in like a few weeks, can be paid a few months. Even more,
but it doesn't really matter to you at that point.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't matter. Like, I think my update requesting is every like 3 to 4 months.
Oh, really? Yeah. Oh, wow. Jeez, that's pretty intense. And I think Alex Chapman is another hacker that's full time, and I think he sort of coined the term, or at least he was the first one that I heard talk about like a vulnerability pipeline being important as a full time hacker, because you, or as a full-time bug bounty hunter, because you're not always going to be able to get a quick turnaround on the programs that are going to give you the best value for your time.
Yes, for sure.
And so, you submit the bug and you kind of forget about it, or you have patience, and, you're getting paid today for the bugs you found weeks ago. And just like Cosmin said, if you're doing bug bounty in a way that's stressed out, or you're financially tight, then you're going to be needing that payment faster, and it's going to make you stressed, and it's going to be less able to focus on the program and focus on just sort of chilly hacking. And so I think I've known this for a little while, this thing about not being able to do full-time bug bounty stressed out, but I think it's concreted in my mind now, where it's like, if somebody messaged me and says, hey, do you think I could do bug bounty and make just a couple grand because I really need a couple grand because, XYZ, I'm just going to say literally, no, it's not an option.
No.
Just don't do it.
Yeah.
Like, go find something that it's going to give you money for time, not money for results.
Exactly.
Right?
Right.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, because we're against the odds. Like, we've talked about this so many times. Like, bug bounty is literally going against the odds. You're going against, like, security teams. It's like, can I find the things that they missed? Can I find the things that they did wrong?
Yeah.
And if you don't, then that's, like, kind of a good thing. But also, like, you can't really fault yourself. It's not entirely skill-based. There's some of it that is completely out of your control. Like, there just might not be a vuln there. And you might have just been looking at something for a day and not found anything there because it's not there.
A little double click into the live hacking event scene. We have these channels, these Slack channels that we use for the live hacking events, and one of the most popular channels is the meme channel. And like, the memes at these events are legendary. Like, every time my wife and I have a habit after the event's over, we just like go back to the room, sit in the bed, and go through all the memes from the live hacking event, and we'll laugh about them. One of the ones we saw last night was just this, like, a meme describing the fact that, like, oh, well, there's a bunch of people that are way smarter than me trying to prevent me from hacking this target all the time, and I forget what the format of the meme was, but it kind of hit home, and it's something that we talk about a lot. And I think that it's something that we really can't emphasize enough, in the situation, because it's all too easy to get into a situation and feel like, man, I just am insufficient. But no, like you said, a lot of times there's a whole team designed to prevent you from doing what you're trying to do.
Yeah. So back on the topic of pipeline, having a pipeline of bugs and stuff. Mm-hmm. Would you say that you submit kind of all across the range of severities, or is it like, do you focus on criticals and highs? Or where do you draw that line? Because I know a lot of people, especially full-time hackers, like, they want to just have bugs going in so that they can have money coming back on a regular basis. So it's not like, once a month I submit a crazy bug and I hope it gets paid in a month, because otherwise I'm not getting paid until next month.
We're looking at you, Alex.
No. So basically, doing that much time on the same program, I know what's the threat model, what they're interested in, what should I report, or to, like, just take a glance, and that's that. I basically try to submit impactful bugs. And on the lesser impactful ones, I just look for specific types of those. I basically also look not actively, like for XSSs. I use there's a reflector plugin. It's really good with some changes in it.
So you modified the burp plugin?
Yeah, basically.
Nice.
Yeah, then. For example, I don't look that much at CSR anymore. I don't care about it. I don't do GitHub searches. I've never ever done a subdomain takeover in my life. I mean, there are lots of better people with already have the proper tools to do everything. So I basically try to focus on some specific things. And then
do you do chaining then? Like, do you ever, so you're submitting all sorts of types of vulns, but do you ever say, like, okay, I've got this vuln that can be a medium, but I know how to chain, I know that this is a helpful gadget to chain it into a higher crit within the context of this program. Do you ever save those vulns and not report them till later?
No, because chaining in this particular program is very good. Yeah. But usually the core of the issue is the one that's actually impactful and the one that's actually get.
And they recognize this.
no, I recognize that from their pattern and stuff like that. Like for instance, I used once in I think it was an SSRF, an open redirect, and that open redirect was already reported. They were good enough to pay part of the award, but because like part of the chain was not there, it didn't matter that much, because actually that wouldn't have opened without that open redirect. And even if it's an open redirect, this is maybe not that good of an example because like super niche. But for example, for XSS is like, from start in this particular program, what's the severity?
Right.
Yeah. So that's that. I don't like if you have like a specific proof of concept to an account takeover, it's fine, you can use it, but that's not like a bug in itself. So in chains, very rarely
okay. So it's mostly just classic vulns for you. It's not necessarily that you're like, okay, I've got this sort of flow figured out where if I can, let's just say, for example, I can set a header in the response or something like that, it results in some sort of crazy thing. It's very varying vuln types and not even crazy amounts of chains.
Yes and no. Like, okay. I know a lot of niche, interesting stuff that are not vulnerable in itself, but helps the recon process a lot. Right. Like very small things, like when you ping a site, we do a post request on HTTP instead of HTTPS. Right. Somewhere directed to some interesting stuff.
Interesting.
You cannot brute force, like very small things.
Yeah.
I know how to hit like a specific path that stops at the load balancer level, doesn't go through, so it's extremely fast. Stuff like that.
So like you're walking us through your tricks.txt.
Yeah. Cattricks.txt.
That's already written in tools, so it's nothing.
Yeah, no,
that's in my head.
That's
I use those very often.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I think that. But I mean, we make fun of his little tricks.txt thing, but actually, that is pivotal. That is absolutely pivotal to staying at a target long term. I have one target that I've done, not even close to long term as what you've done. But even on that, you start to when you start to piece things together, and you start understanding these little quirks that just tell you a little bit about how a certain functionality is flowing, and that functionality is present across their whole scope. It makes all the difference, because you can get that little better. It informs the gut, right? We were talking about the gut earlier, and it informs the gut, and it allows you to get that sort of, and even if it's just subconscious,
it's like a spidey sense.
Exactly. Your spidey sense, but there has to be something that signals it, right? And sometimes it can be those little tricks. So that's really cool.
Yeah, I would imagine that like there are certain keywords, right? Or like things that like you notice, because you don't only hack directly on that target. You hack on other companies that will use that the technologies or will integrate with it. And I can imagine that there are certain things that you notice that are like, oh, they're using that. Now I know.
Yeah,
and then you just focus in and just dive in, and you start to fiddle with things and try and find endpoints that you can manipulate, that how they work and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's that for sure. Like you recognize, like you said, all the keywords, the patterns, the everything. How it's like you can imagine pretty well how it's done in the background or in the back end. And I also like build a ton of like custom Wordlists.
Oh, that's interesting.
Nice.
Yeah. I think it's super good. Like I had some amazing results with a specific Wordlist that this is not big. Like it has like 10,000 words or something.
Wow. How are you building that? Are you scraping JS files or map files or text on the thing, or
is this wordlist.txt?
Or this is
the seventh file.
Cat node.txt tokenize into
I think this is a pretty important piece of my
all right
secret sauce.
Okay.
Because if I tell you once, everybody can actually do it. Because it's I've never actually read documentation like anywhere like this technique.
Right.
I mean, kind of, but not.
And that's the cool thing about having people come on the pod and being in the bug bounty community as well, is that there are things that you share and things that you feel like you can give back to the community, but also like you have to keep some of that
it's a bit
stuff.
of competitive
because
intelligence.
It's so competitive. And I talk to people about the industry fairly often, right? And they're like, why would anybody ever share anything, right?
Yeah.
Like, and because it's like you're literally creating opponents. You're creating people that will steal bounties, literally steal money from you, right? And but I think that's part of the beauty, and that dynamic is really interesting because in general, I think it's a really collaborative environment. And we in general we really lift each other up. But
but it's also another point, like another point of view here.
Yeah.
Like if you have all those resources, it's very good. Like when I started, there was not that many resources at all.
Right.
But then you have like maybe 5 to 10 super good resources, and you use that one, and nobody actually innovates a new stuff. Like what I did was like never ever read a blog post on that in my life in the beginning.
Yeah.
Like ever. So it kind of like forces you to think a bit for yourself outside of the box, or like two sides of the coin.
Yeah, that's super, super important and really well said. I think that you can get lost. We talked about this a little bit on the, what was that episode that I just like made up a bunch of words that were like Dr. Seuss? I forget what that was.
Oh yes,
but
get it. What was it? The beginner tips or something.
Yeah. We'll link it in the description or whatever. We'll call it, Justin's weird episode with all the Dr. Seuss
with the rhymes.
shit. Yeah. But yeah, it's so easy to get caught up in the education piece, especially with all the resources now. And we say like, I wish I had all these resources when I had just started, but actually maybe it's better, right? Maybe it's better that you had to get your hands in there and you figure it out for yourself in a lot of ways. Because then you do figure out how to develop methodologies, and it takes more time and it takes a little bit of a grind for sure. Because I've seen hackers go from 0 to like finding crits on hardened programs in like less than 2 years. With the resources.
Less than 2 months.
Yeah. I mean, true. Yeah, some people just really intake it quick depending on the background. But I've seen someone literally go. I'll call it out. So, my mentee. So he went from French major to finding crits, in less than 2 years, like on his own, and it's definitely possible with the resources, but also, a big part of our flow, working together to help him grow as a hacker was doing a lot of hacking.
Yeah.
And then we would, maybe we would do 5 or 6 hours of hacking together in a day. And then he would go home and read 5 hours of resources, right?
Yeah.
And so he was really putting in the time. And those resources are great, but it has to be accompanied with failing.
Right.
You've got to get out there and fail, and develop your own techniques, because that's where you get the secret sauce like this that Cosmin has. And that's super clutch. So I guess one of the other things that I had on the list for you regarding a specific, working with one specific program over the long term is your relationship with the team. Like, how has your relationship with the team evolved, and how has that helped you as a hacker or as a participant in that program?
So I've always had a very good relationship with the whole team.
Yeah.
Even if they change the management, the new employees, and so on. Because I always felt appreciated by them, and what I said was like impactful, was properly analyzed. I never felt like tricked, stuff like that. So
never
it
felt
was like
tricked.
I think it's also a very mutual. It's full of mutual respect, and also. Yeah, when they needed something from me, I was there for them. When I needed something from them, they were there for me.
Yeah.
So it's pretty important.
Yeah, that's really good. I will say, and I imagine that takes a lot of effort on your behalf as well, because especially with the, report a bug and forget it mentality, like sometimes you'll report a bug, a month will pass and they'll be like, hey, clarifying detail on this. And I'm like, I don't even remember where that was, and you got to go back and like figure out like all the different details about it. So that takes work.
I don't think this ever happened.
What?
Wow.
Yeah, ever, because they have a specific triage team. Like their own triage team,
Yeah.
and they are accustomed to the product. So when they have questions, they do it like beforehand, and then go through some, I don't know what the backend their process looks like. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But they give all the details, and
that's it.
Maybe like 2 or 3 times as like clarifications how I found something, like how I reached results, but this is not like a technical question.
Wow, that's actually really amazing, because I feel like especially as remediation starts to come into effect, a lot of times I get another question like, hey, could we fix this by this? And then I'm like, not really sure, because I don't remember any of the details of this bug. And so it seems like they've got a lot of technically competent people on the back end that don't even necessarily need to double check with you. They can just kind of look at the code, talk to their own security team, and figure that out. So that's cool. And if you can bypass it, great. Like there's another bounty for you.
So when you submit bugs to other programs that are outside of the main thing that you hack on, but are like usually using that technology, would you say that it's something that you have found on the main technology and then gone to check if it's on other programs, or is it you're just curious, you're looking at that program, you stumble on the technology, and you're like, oh, okay, let's exploit this?
So I've never consciously sent a report on a program that uses the technology when I knew that that was a core issue, because they truly frown upon that. So that's like a big
double dipping.
No,
sure.
Like a huge no. And if I find something, that happened like maybe 2 times. If I find something on a program that uses the technology, and I'm not sure whether that's like a configuration thing or it's a core issue, I test it on something that I own, and to see that's a core issue, so I know like exactly where to submit it.
Nice.
Oh my gosh, that must take so much effort though, because you got to go reset up that whole project.
Yeah. So
for yourself,
do you do a lot of testing on like a local instance or whatever that you have configured and set to defaults? And so
I have a lot of various test instances.
Nice.
Different purposes.
All called ASDF.
ASDF1, ASDF2.
Basically, I usually spin a new one if like I'm out of storage
or if the name is taken.
It was funny because you were during one of your show and tells you were showing like the configuration that you had used or whatever for like your just like a setup or something, and it was like city name.
I love that.
That's actually me like trying. Usually it's
He says, and there was an address, and it was street,
with ease, and then
city.
So you can like actually realize it's not like a placeholder.
right. Street, city, Arkansas.
That was a drop down. That was a drop down.
We both knew it was Arkansas because we're both like, what?
Yeah, I was like, Cosmin, Arkansas? Of all the states in the U.S., Arkansas.
And I was like,
down, AR, exactly.
Oh my god.
It's either that or Alaska.
That's hilarious, man. Yeah. No, I forgot. Yeah, I kind of forgot that was a state. Oh man. Yeah, no, that's great. Cool, man. Well, let me see what else I've got on the list here, because we've had a great conversation so far. So I guess we talked a decent bit about what it means to be on one target for the long term. The last thing that I had was like, how do you create mental models, or do you intentionally create mental models for how a product works? And do you store those in your, notes.txt, or do you kind of keep them all up in your head, just architecturally and also like structurally?
So here, I can definitely recognize I have a problem. Keep them in my head. And I forget it. Then I have to realize how it works. And then maybe I add it in the text file. Like if this happens. So I actually went to...
Cosmin's doing like ASCII art in his like frogs.
That's exactly how I feel every time I come back to a program that I haven't touched in like a while. I'm like, and then it all clicks. I'm like, oh god, I remember it now.
Exactly.
Something like that. So I went like to the same parts of the app multiple times, and I know that was not efficient, not good. It was kind of frustrating sometimes because you don't find the results. It's there. We just like forgot that specific URL.
Sure.
But I usually remember how I got there, so I remember the process usually.
And I think you told me before this event that you've actually seen a decent amount of the targets that were in scope, before, and so it's pretty clear, that you can come back. You mentioned earlier. I mean, it was really interesting that you said you'll hit a mental block and then you'll come back, later afterwards, and that's really like that does not work at all for me. Like for me, I've got to hit a mental block and then just iterate again and then iterate again while I've got it all in my brain, right? Mm-hmm. And then, really, if I'm like really, really stuck and something's close, maybe I'll like force myself to move along but still be thinking about it in like a background process. But like, I don't move along very easily and then come back to something. And it seems like that's something that you do. So that's an interesting tip.
Yeah, so I do that like you said, but I also have to hit a block. Like if I'm in the zone, I'm not like switching targets or anything. But if I exhaust like the things I wanted to try, I maybe move to something else, then maybe come back, especially in life hacking events, because I picked up something like pretty shallow. Yeah. So it does not, and I just like went there, so I could actually afford to ping pong a bit.
Nice.
Yeah, so also like on the big thing that I do the same thing because sometimes I actually miss things or have like a new fresh idea that works.
Yeah, like later you notice some weird behavior.
I
wonder if that's...
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So I think it's pretty important to know what's going on, like mentally, how you do it, how you achieve that result, like the whole process, but maybe it's not that important to know all the details if you know how to get the details again.
Yeah.
I don't know if it makes sense.
Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. I think like you said, intuitively that's not the most efficient flow, but I think maybe even going through that exercise of rediscovering
exactly
the functionality can firm up your understanding, because it's almost like you're coming back with semi-fresh eyes. Right? Like if I have a problem with something, I'll hit up Joel and Joel will come look at it. He's got a fresh set of eyes. He sees something different, right? But, maybe if I don't hit up Joel and I spend a couple days, doing something else and I come back to it, my eyes are sort of not as fresh with it, and maybe I'll see something different as well. That kind of seems like what you're doing.
Yes, exactly.
So what you're telling me is I can cut Joel out of the bounty process.
Wait. Hold on a second.
Man, I don't even need Joel anymore. Critical thinking with Justin only.
All right, we're starting Joel's critical thinking.
Oh no, shoot. No, that's a great tip. That's a really solid one.
And also like between those processes, you also learn new things that on the second iteration you can apply them also there. And that's actually kind of built also in my tools. My tools reiterate their own previous results from other places and try to do that again in a new environment. And actually like have results. Like if you have the tool that I have in a blank new machine, it will not have like many hits. But if you like reiterate on a big like data, it kind of like tries to do the same stuff again. And like
it's really interesting to hear like other hackers describe this, because I think it's almost like you have your own little internal like live hacking event where you're knowledge sharing with yourself.
Yeah,
like knowledge sharing. It's so weird because every time we go to a live hacking event and like if you're collaborating with someone, they'll be like, hey, I have this really weird behavior. And I find that 9 times out of 10, I'll be like, oh, have you tried this? And they're like, yep, I tried all of that stuff, didn't work. And I was like, oh man, okay, so we're thinking about this the same way.
Cosmin like scrolls up in notes.txt. Hey, Pastor Cosmin. Guess what? I have this weird behavior. Maybe you could figure it out. Thanks. Like, oh my gosh. Sharing tips with yourself. Some next level shit right here. Yeah. People are coming into this interview, it's Cosmin. He's going to have some crazy shit. Cosmin's like,
just sitting at home talking to himself.
Cosmin's like, I've got this mirror, right? And I talk to the mirror.
Hey, Cosmin, you guys got updated.
Let's go.
Oh my gosh, you guys are too much, man. Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, that's all I had on my list. Do you have any I guess let me ask this. Do you have any tips or tricks? I think you're the leading expert that I can think of on staying on one program for a long term and making a shit ton of money on it. Like, do you have any tips for people that relate to long-term relationship building with one program? And would you recommend that to all hackers?
Yeah, I think everybody has its own way.
Yeah.
There are different type of people that some go wide, some go deep, some focus on specific vulnerability times. They are all very successful.
Yeah.
So in the scope of your question, for me personally, it was very fortunate and good to go this path, and having a good relationship with the program, I think it's crucial.
Yeah.
But that can be seen pretty fast. Like after a few months, I think you can actually get an idea of what's happening, and you could decide for yourself whether to proceed that program or to just stop. Because if you feel like you're being tricked or not appreciated, you cannot do it long term, I think.
Yeah. I have a little interesting perspective on this as well, because I've been on the company side. I've actually been on the company side that you've reported stuff to as well.
Yeah.
When I was at Uber. And I think certain researchers really demonstrate, like, just in how they report and what they report, like the type of like person that they are, the type of hunter they are, and the type of relationship that they're trying to build. And so, like, if you're submitting critical stuff and like you're doing your best to be like open, honest, and transparent about that, and you're consistent, right? It's more like once you get 2 or 3 reports into a program, they know your name. Like, they're gonna know it, especially if those are really good, well-written reports, and that's like what you do, right? And so, like, I don't think I've ever seen a report from you that's been like, ugh, this report sucks. Like, I can't even read this, right? Because like you have a reputation, and that reputation holds up. So I think it's important, not only from like the program side. The program side will probably pick up on it, like once you start reporting, because they see that you're interested, and they're like, oh, awesome, this person is actively like hacking.
Consistent.
You know, we want them to keep going. Like, we want to keep seeing bugs from this person, and that's like an awesome thing to see as a program. It's just like somebody who's finding cool shit that you've missed.
Yeah, I think you've mentioned in the past too that you have, like, I remember you saying like, this one bug is like 20 steps long, right? And I'm like, man, I don't know that I've ever written a report that's like, 15 steps long, right? So I think probably there's a lot of detail that goes into your reports too.
So this is actually a skill set you have to develop for yourself to learn to write a good report. It's extremely important. It cuts out of frustration, faster turnaround times and everything. So it's really good.
Do you do video POCs?
I almost always do video POCs if it's somehow like complex. If it's like an XSS, I put a screenshot.
Same.
That's that. But if it's like something complex, I do a video POC, but I also realized that it's extremely important to properly write the replication steps, because nobody wants to like open a video in a new screen or something, and then just like, I have to do that. Let me pause the video. Oh, what did he do there? Rewind. Oh, how can I copy this? I cannot copy this.
Or like copying the video into 16 different ticket programs you've got inside of a, Jira and this and that. So
Yeah, exactly. So both parts are important, and I usually have like a really structured report. Like I have a summary, describes the vulnerability a bit. If it's a new program, I tend to like give explanations about like why this is happening. Sometimes, in some rare cases, I give documentation like links,
site documentation back to them.
And then like the replication steps. I write down video or screenshot attached, and the impact section, I write the impact, and does that. So
I feel like, especially for other teams that aren't the main program that you're on, like, a lot of the time they don't even fully understand like the technology that you're hacking on, and so it's like difficult for them to know why it's a security impact. So I think that's really important for like you, who has really, really deep understanding of like, why is this bad and how it's bad, and that this is like a default configuration or something like that, to explain to the security team so that they can understand it. Because oftentimes it's an engineering focus, that the engineering team has chosen to use this technology and it's more convenient for them, but the security team isn't in on that decision.
Right.
They're just there as the security team, and then they find out later that it's been done improperly.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. That's so okay. So we've got, being consistent. You've got writing really solid reports. And then you said within the first like 2 or 3 months, you'll kind of know whether the team is like somebody you'd want to work with continuously. Besides those 3, do you have any other tips for people wanting to develop to find their, bread and butter program, their program that they're going to stick with long term? What other kind of tips and indicators do you have?
You have to like hacking it.
Yeah,
I think that's extremely important.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
I have some technologies that I truly dislike when I see them, and I usually just close the program. But I can also afford to do that now and just like move to something else. I don't even start.
But surely you dislike this program, sometimes.
Oh yeah. That happens.
Do you? Okay, so would you say that there are periods of like, a week, or would you say that there are periods of a couple days where you're like, oh man, like I am really sloshing through this right now. Like I really don't want to be doing this. Like, how long do you think those periods last versus like the eventual come around, which is like, you know what, actually this is pretty good.
It kind of depends.
I know it's hard to quantify, but
yeah. So if I have like a disagreement or something,
not necessarily with the program, but like with the technology. Like, do you ever
do you get burned out, basically?
Well, well, okay, it's not even burned out. Like, well, maybe sort of, but like, do you ever think like, I really don't like hacking this technology right now, or is it pretty?
Oh yeah. Okay, I understand what you mean. Yeah. This happens. Yeah. It happened already numerous times.
Yeah.
And I just try to hack something else. Maybe, and that's the point when sometimes I switch to other programs that I hack, but usually I just see if I have some interesting invites, like to start somewhere fresh.
So you bounce out for just a second, and maybe the live hacking events even help with this.
Yeah, for sure. Those actually help, because if it's a live hacking event, I just focus on that, so it's like nothing else. Yeah, I just bounce out a little, bounce in between, and then usually come back to see if like something new, I have another idea, or what does my text file says.
What does my text file say?
Do you have like an ideas.txt as well?
Oh my gosh.
That you keep like things that are kind of interesting, but maybe not fully formed?
Yeah, that's part of notes.
Yeah. Got it.
Oh man.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so that's great. I mean, that's really, you'd think it's obvious advice, but I think for people that are highly motivated and people that really want to succeed, they just try to like, just make it happen, right? Yeah. And I think that's one of the things, and this is applicable to life too. It's not just bug bounty, is like, you ought to like the thing you're trying to succeed in,
for sure.
And if you don't, maybe you should switch, because at the end of the day, if you don't like it at a lower level, it's going to be really hard for you to push through long term.
Yep.
And just a little bit of liking it, I think, goes a long way too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's exactly what we talked about with like when like beginners try to pick their first program.
Yeah.
Like I always say, like just pick like something that you use on a daily basis, or that you like you think it's a cool technology, or like when you read the company name, you're like, oh, it'd be epic if I could hack the U.S. Department of Defense.
Right.
It's just pick something that like seems interesting to you and set that goal for yourself, because that genuine attraction towards the product, towards the program, is going to drive you to like try and find those epic bugs, right? Like you want to like find something super epic. Maybe it's for bragging rights, but also just for like, I hacked the DoD, or I hacked whatever, right? It's like
personal. It's a personal objective. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's really important.
Yeah. No, that's great. It just makes me think of that thing we were laughing about the other day in one of the hacker chats we're in, of like, someone released like a list of like top 100 most secure companies or something like that, and we're like, oh no, like why would you do this? And some hacker out there is definitely going to be like,
there's my top 10 list.
I'm going to pwn all of these. The next. No, that's good. That definitely makes sense, and I'm sure there's lots of complex intricacies to developing, your bread and butter program. We heard lots of documentation. We heard good reports. We heard like the product. We heard, value your relationship with the company.
Yep. Step away when you're not feeling it.
Yeah, bounce away when you're not feeling it, and then come back to it and check and see whether that feeling of love, is still there for the program.
And I love that nuance, because it's like, you can be like, I mean, you are like the most quintessential like single program hacker that I can think of, and yet you still take breaks from the program. You still switch it up. You still do different stuff, and like you're still able to go back and like crush it like regularly because of all those other things that you're doing, like taking breaks and taking notes and writing good reports and having that relationship with the team.
Yeah, or sometimes it also helps like building your own tools around something you know. Because
as a break or
also as a break, yes. Then also you have to think about, well, what can I add to that? And you can research into that area particularly, and you learn a little bit more, and then you can automate it maybe, or just integrate it in your flow or whatever works for you.
Yeah,
nice.
But I think you can't take these breaks if you're stressed out about money.
Exactly,
right.
Exactly.
So, yeah, it definitely does. It's definitely someone that you need to be in a financially secure position to be able to commit to a program long term like this.
Yeah,
for sure. And so this particular program that you work on, there are a couple hackers that have this as their main thing. So do you ever see a decent amount of overlap with other hackers? What would you say your dupe ratio is in this program?
3%?
3%?
That was maybe the most German response ever. Not 1%.
Yeah,
3%.
3%.
I felt like 5 was too much, 1 was too little.
Yeah, so it's like 3%. Okay.
Really, we do very different stuff. Yeah,
cool. That's crazy.
That has been like that since the beginning.
Wow.
I think it's not that important to look at the thank you. So
Sure.
The activity or whatever.
Yeah.
The top.
We talk about that all the time. People get scared away by that little top hackers in this program thing.
Yep.
Everyone has different eyes, man.
Yeah,
And if I recall correctly, you're not even number 1 on this program.
No.
There's somebody else who is.
Yeah.
It's crazy, which is I can't even fathom.
Yeah, exactly. So, like you said, everybody is different. Has their own way, and just go in if you like it.
Yeah. Wow. Great tips, man. Cosmin, thank you so much for coming on the pod. I will definitely have to pick your brain again sometime. Maybe next time you win a belt. We'll see.
Yeah. Awesome.
All right. Thanks, man.
Thank you.
That's the pod.
Fun.